what I want to do next before we move into the No More Now What exercise is I want to bring to the stage a special guest. Jane M. Powers. Jane is a coach, a consultant, and what I love so much about Jane is how much inner work that she's done on herself and her willingness to stand before us transparently and share her story. Because I think it's such a great model of everything that we've been talking about and how does this all get translated into a business and what do you do with it. So please give a warm welcome to the stage for Jane M. Powers. Woo! That's so cute. Check it out. Take a stage. You can always tell when somebody's been on stage.
Yes, and loves it, and loves it.
And loves it. Who just comes up and just owns the stage.
Yes.
So we're going to sit down. We're going to have a brief conversation. And the whole idea in these mini conversations is to provide some value to you. And Jane, what I love so much, so thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
I know this is a dream come true.
Yes.
You were another one last year. You were in the audience. And what did you say when you were in the audience?
So the room was different last year. It was really long, and I sat in the back because she lined off some seats, and I moved those and sat in the back because I'm a bit of a rebel. So I sat in the back, and I went, I'm going to be on that stage next year. Next year, I'm going to be on that stage. I didn't know how I was going to do it because I had never connected with you. And I got the email, and I picked up the phone and called and said, I want to be on your stage.
Yeah, so I don't even get to say I made that dream come true. You made that dream come
Yes.
true. Good job. Yeah, I do really love. My favorite people to work with and play with are people who are highly intentional and who take action on what's important to them. I have a really high value on that. My least favorite people to work with and play with are people who don't keep their agreements, because I don't really feel like chasing people down, and that's just not what I want to do with my life force and my energy. So if you want to play and participate with me and many people at this level, I'm a member of the Transformational Leadership Council, started by my dear friend, and I was his personal coach for many years, Jack Canfield. And at that level, a lot of the leaders say the same thing. And I know that integrity is something that's really key and core to you.
Yes.
So before we jump into that, because I think that's another aspect of what you do, the work that we were doing yesterday on wound and the work that we were doing today on critic, I know are very tied to who you are, your story, and what you do in life. So can you share a little bit about your wound, critic, story, or any piece of that?
Sure. So let me start by saying I come to these events and I go, I gotta write this, and now I gotta get a partner. So I was never really fully always playing out full because I didn't want to tell my story because I had a story. I had a story. Who wants to hear my story? And it's not that big of a story, and I would tell myself over and over that. So I was sharing with Marcia at lunch that this event, there's a whole different level of me showing up, and I love it, and I hate it at the same time. Because I walk out of here. Yes.
Ask them. How many can relate?
And let me ask you, because I can hear the giggles, how many of you can relate to that, right? Where you go back to your room and you go, oh, isn't she cute and adorable? And you go, oh, God, if she asks one more imagine if question. So let me share, how do I bring forth my vision, my dream? It's interesting, you talk about the wound, and I grew up, and on June 10th, 1976, at 2:31 a.m., I got the message that my mother was never coming home. Now, I was a young kid, and when she went to the hospital, because she fell down, as she did many times, she was an alcoholic, I went over to my friend's house to play, and the mother said, well, how's your mom? And I said, oh, she's good. She always falls down. She's coming home. And she never did. And I went into my room the night at 2:31, and I remember it, and I'm the youngest of 7, and everyone was crying, and I went to bed, and I waited. And I waited. And I waited for about, I would honestly say 20 years for my mother to come home. And that's the more empowering, the more inspirational story of my childhood. I grew up. Have you heard the statistic? 1 out of 3 have lived through a degree of abuse. And whenever I was in a group of 3, I knew I was the one. I knew I was the one that, had been that statistic. So I took with me a story, not so much the loss and the abuse, but what I made of that, what it said about me, what I interpreted. It was the wrong message of love. I got the wrong message. It was a broken message, but I carried that forth. I also got a story about my worthiness. So as I continued to move through understanding who I was, which I really never did, and I at times, you talk about every day, it's how far into the dark do you go? And I'll tell you, I've tried tapping, I've tried meditation, I'm like journaling, I did every technique imaginable. And the one thing, I had a speaking coach, mentor, Glenna Salisbury, who said to me, you will never be more than you are in this very moment, and you will never be less than. You are always enough. And I sat with that, and I thought, but what about that I was the first to sit down in the spelling bee? Because I was told I wasn't so bright growing up. And I carried that through, and it's amazing how we bring forth the things that we believe. So I'll tell you this story. I was at a meeting. It was a real estate meeting, and there was probably 50 people in the room, and a guy was doing a a memory seminar. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going back. Okay. And so...
You gotta love it. We're loving her authenticity and then totally can.
So me. So
corny. You're corny.
I am so. I love that about me.
I love that about you too. I love that about you too.
I know you do, because the apples, they're like hang out in the same tree. So here this guy's up front, and he goes. He says, "Give me an animal that starts with an A." When I yelled out, because I was proud to be first, I said, orangutan. And they did that. And guess what? I didn't know why they did that. The owner of the company looked at me and he goes, that's not an A. I go, yeah, it is. He goes, no, it's an O. I go, it's not an orangutan. I said, it's an A. And he goes, don't you know how to spell orangutan? I said, well, apparently not. So I tell that story because I grew up thinking that I wasn't that bright. So when I go to put a business together, I think, what do I know? But accidentally, I was creating multi-million-dollar businesses on my own, but it was motivation, and I can't remember who said that. Oh, our beautiful singer, Jess said that. She goes, not to be motivated by fear, but I was motivated by fear. My past was gaining on me, always felt like it was gaining on me, so I was always staying ahead of the history, of the brokenness that I felt and that I lived.
I want to ask, so how did that then get turned into your business, right? So that was the motivation to do the business. But I would imagine that the core of the business is some kind of compensation for that.
Isn't it beautiful that, you don't even have to really articulate, you just jump into my head. So,
well, here's the thing. Once
yes.
you understand how pattern works, everybody thinks you're psychic. But there really is a real pattern to how things work. So, your prime motivation, especially if you're doing consciousness work and you have a sense of humor, actually, both are actually quite useful. You can say, okay, if this is who I am and this is how I see the world, at the highest level, how can I use my wound in service to others who are like me or who would be served by it?
Excellent. So the umbrella that is the sole purpose of my business is to give people a voice. To have a voice. I didn't have a voice. I'm telling you, growing up, I was very shy. I did not want to speak in front of anyone. Anytime you shined in my family, it was shamed out of you. Anytime you were expressive. So I was determined, because my goal is to work with 1 in 3. My goal, my book, Revealing the Missing Piece, is to work with 1 in 3, to find that new way to express your power, express yourself, and to find who you are. And most that I found want to express themselves through the business, through the work they do in the world. And what I help people do is bring forth their zone of genius to be able to say, yeah, maybe I was told I was dumb. Maybe I can't spell orangutan, but...
I'm going from, I'm stupid, I'm mute, people abuse me, people, I can't, there's nothing that you're going from, I'm stupid, to creating a brand called Zone of Genius. Where did you get the kahunas? what did you have inside yourself that you can offer in service to our audience right now? That would have you, because in the face of a conversation like that, you can go 2 ways. You could totally collapse into, I really am worthless, I really am stupid, I have nothing to say, and you could pull, drop yourself into a hole and pull the hole in behind you. Or you could do what you did. Really say, I see there's something magnificent in this. Like, what skill did you have or develop that got you to move from A to Z?
I was a fighter. I mean, literally, I was a fighter. I couldn't fight against my abuse because I was tiny, but when I got into school and I was always in sports, I was always in a fight. And I got tough, and I was fighting, and I could take down the biggest, and I was proud of that I could physically defend myself. And I started to go, wait a minute. There's something about that is in me, stubborn, ornery, rebel, and I thought, you know what? I don't care how fast my past is, I'm going to stand up. Like you spoke of, is standing and facing, daring the dark, staring down the fear.
You made a choice.
And I made a choice, and it's about
choice.
Commitment to that choice, to be able to say, despite, and trust me, I have a wonderful life, I have a wonderful partner, I have a wonderful business, and every day I get up and I say, it's a choice, and it's a commitment, and I'm going to stick to it. And I'll tell you, not every day I go, oh, this is such a great choice. Oh, can you relate? Right? You go, God,
again, I'm like, am I still working with that material?
Yeah.
I used to have that response all the time until I got, oh, this is my path. Still working on that same story. Like, oh, maybe that's just my story, and what I could do is actually see it through a different lens. And let me ask you this one last piece as we start to wrap up here. We're going to move into an exercise here about saying no more. What did you say no more to?
I said no more to the secrets, no more to hiding the truth. No, and I'll tell you how I did that. I went on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and it was all survivors of sexual abuse, and I said, I am here.
Wow.
And I'm going to make a difference. And it was that moment that I said, never will I keep anything that is not life-giving. I will never keep a secret. So it was telling the truth. That's why I just encourage, have your voice, whether it's in your business, in your relationship, it doesn't matter. It's what do you feel? Do you want to go to McDonald's or do you want to go to Burger King? Yes, no, whatever it is, it starts small. And that's what I did. I started small and then started saying yes and no to the really significant things in my life. And practice with the tiniest things. The tiniest things. Do you want to go out to dinner? Yes, I do. Or no, I don't.
I want to acknowledge your courage and vulnerability, your how you're taking the stage and how generous you're being with your own story and your insight and wisdom. I think you're an incredible gift to me and to the room.
Yes.
So give her a huge round of applause. She did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jane.
you.
Great
Thank you.
job.
Great.
Fabulous. Thank you.